My name is Danielle Den. For this video, I will be talking about nutrition with a main focus on fast food. To begin with, I'll start by giving a brief summary of the basics of nutrition. I'll talk about the food pyramid and nutrition labels. I'll then move on to talk about carbohydrates and fatty acids, which are in many foods. I'll then finish with talking about butylated hydroxyanisole, also known as BHA, yellow number 5, and trans fat, which are all common in fast food. Growing up, most of us always heard phrases like, eat your veggies, no dessert until you finish your broccoli, and no, we are not going to McDonald's. And let's not forget about the food nutrition pyramid, or you might be more familiar with Food Canada's Rainbow of Food that we all learned in elementary school. As a little recap, the food pyramid and food rainbow are used to show the number of servings we should have every day of a certain food group. Because of these phrases and food images, it was easy to figure out that healthy food was the right way to go and bad food such as fast foods and junk foods were just no. On packaged food products and some fast food packaging, they have food nutrition labels. This is where you, as a consumer, can read things like how many calories are in the food item, the total fat, carbohydrates, sodium level, and what proteins are in the food. The percentages on the right of the label indicate the daily value of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. If you actually read and understand this label, it can help you make pretty healthy choices. As more people are realizing that eating healthy is very important, more fast food restaurants are labeling how many calories are in each food item. They label the calories right on the menu, so when you order, you can see how many calories you are consuming. Carbohydrates, also commonly known as carbs, are found in many types of food, both healthy and unhealthy. Foods such as potatoes, pasta, soft drinks, bread, and popcorn all contain carbs. These carbs can come in many different forms, one of the most popular forms being sugar. Two common examples of sugar are fructose and glucose. Carbohydrates are made up of compounds of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. You may have heard the word saccharide before. This is a term that is derived from the Latin word for sugar. Carbohydrates get classified according to the amount of saccharide units they contain. The three most common classifications are monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides contain a single carbohydrate, whereas disaccharides have two single carbohydrates that are linked together. An example would be taking glucose and fructose, two carbs, and put them together to form sucrose, which is a disaccharide. A polysaccharide is when you have multiple sugars that are linked together. Starch is an example. Here we have glucose linked together, which makes it a polysaccharide. Fatty acids. A fatty acid is a long hydrocarbon chain that has a carbolic acid group at the end of the chain. There are saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fatty acids. In saturated fatty acids, every carbon atom is bonded with two hydrogen atoms. This means that it is saturated with hydrogen. The saturation with hydrogen makes the fatty acid stable so it can withstand lots of heat. Butter and coconut oil are good examples of this. An easy way to tell if a fat is saturated or not is if it is solid at room temperature. Monounsaturated fatty acids have a pair of carbon atoms which form a double bond with each other. They are unsaturated by only one bond and less stable than a saturated fatty acid. Olive oil is a good example of this. Polyunsaturated fatty acids have two or more carbon atom pairs that are bonded together instead of a hydrogen atom. By having these carbon bonds, the fatty acid is very unstable and liquid at room temperature and in the refrigerator. Soybean and sunflower oil are examples of a polyunsaturated fatty acid. In fast food, there are some dangerous chemicals. It's not uncommon to hear that a fast food burger that has been sitting in a jar for a month looks exactly the same as it did when you purchased it. This is due to chemicals that are put into fast food. One of these chemicals that are added is BHA. BHA is a chemical that is added to foods that contain oils. It helps prevent them from going bad. BHA is an antioxidant that consists of a mixture of tert-butyl 4-hydroxyanisole. BHA is insoluble in water and can be white, beige, or a slightly yellow waxy solid. Food dye is another chemical that gets added to some fast foods that is not good for the human body. Along with your order of a burger and side of fries, you're most likely going to get a drink, and that drink's most likely not going to be water. So a soft drink or juice is going to get ordered. Along with the carbohydrates and calories that are in your drink, there can also be food dyes. Yellow number 5 is also known as tartrazine, or E102, is widely used in making jams, chips, candy, shampoo, and yes, drinks. So why is it bad? To begin with, yellow number 5 is banned in Norway and Austria, and other European countries have issued warnings about the possible side effects. When people consume yellow number 5, they lose zinc through their urine and saliva. In addition, it may cause allergic reactions and hyperactivity in some people. Me, being curious to know what soft drinks contain yellow number 5, searched a few ingredients lists. What I could find was Mountain Dew, Yellow Mellow, and AMP energy drink. Trans fats. In many fast foods, you can find trans fat on the nutrition label. There are two broad types of trans fats, naturally occurring and artificial. I will be focusing on the artificial trans fats. Artificial trans fats are created in an industrial process. This industrial process adds hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils, which make them into a solid. Why is trans fat bad, you might ask? Eating trans fat increases your risk of developing heart disease and of having a stroke. It raises your bad cholesterol and lowers your good cholesterol, and it has also been associated with a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So we know why trans fat is bad for humans, but if it's so bad, why do companies keep using it? To begin with, trans fat is easy to use and it is inexpensive to produce. It lasts a long time, gives food a desirable taste and texture, and a big one for fast food restaurants, they use trans fats to deep fry their foods. Oils that have trans fat in them can be used many times in commercial fryers. A little fun fact that I found about trans fats is that even if the label states trans fat 0 grams, there's still a chance that there's trans fats in the item. Due to some rules, food companies only need to list the trans fat content if the food item contains 0.5 grams or more trans fat per serving. This means that if an item has 0.4999 grams of trans fat in one serving, the label can say trans fat 0 grams, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. But don't worry, there are some ways that you can easily spot if the food you're eating has trans fat in it, even if the nutrition label says it doesn't. One easy way is to check the ingredients list. Look for words like hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated. These words, if they're listed, are usually followed by some sort of oil. If you see something like hydrogenated vegetable oil and it says 0 grams of trans fat, you know that there's actually trans fat in the item. I wanted to see this for myself, so I took a little look in my pantry and found this bag of Ranch Crispers. On the nutrition label, it says 0 grams trans fat. Okay, that's good. But then I took a little closer look and looked in the ingredients. And what does it say? Hydrogenated vegetable oil. So there is trans fat in this bag of Crispers. There's just not enough per serving for them to label it. Me, being kind of shocked about this whole labeling situation, looked into fast food burgers to see if this was happening with the labeling. Out of the 5 burgers from 5 different restaurants, I did not see this happening. This was because fast food burgers have enough trans fat per serving that they have to label in their nutrition facts. For example, when we look at the nutrition label for a McDonald's Big Mac, the serving size is 209 grams, which according to McDonald's is just under the size of a full Big Mac, which is 215 grams. Under trans fat, and the nutrition calculator indicates that there is 0.5 grams. In addition to trans fat, there are 10 grams of saturated fat and 45 grams of carbohydrates. That's all the time I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something. Thanks for watching.